All right, welcome back to another episode of Nutrient Investigations. I am your host, Stoner Dave. Thank you for coming, and welcome to everyone that is new and everyone, of course, that is a returning viewer. So, what are we looking at today? Well, we're talking about terpene modulation. Yes, sir, terpene modulation. That's how you change your terpene profile, maybe slightly, maybe a little bit more than slightly, but at least a little bit closer to what you want, right? Okay, so I drew up a little chart on nutrient blend influence on terpene profiles of some of the companies that we have gone over thus far so that you guys can see what we are talking about if you decide to try them. So, first off, organic. It's usually pretty neutral, but can be very stinky. Okay. Um, General hydroponics is really more middle of the road. You do see a little bit of sway either way, depending on the strain, but most of the time it's pretty middle of the road and pretty accurate to what the strain is represented as, usually from the breeder notes. Now, Heavy 16 is similar, but produces a much nicer profile in my personal opinion, so that's why I used a lot of Heavy 16 over the years. But again, it is more middle of the road in terms of profile expression. So, depending on the strain, again, you can see a little bit more of the sweetness, you can see a little bit more of the funkiness, but it doesn't really get too funky. It can get pretty sweet though. It can get pretty sweet. Again, this all depends, on the profile of the strain in question. Like some particularly super nasty, heavy profiles are going to show through a little bit more on some of these than they do on others. So like drip hydro is pretty neutral, but it's more on the stinky side. Humboldt County's own, very stinky. Usually not going to be able to get too much of a sweet profile on this unless the strain is really, really expressing a sweet side. Okay. Floraflex Wet is pretty sweet, but it's also, a middle of the road. It sometimes adds a little bit more of a citrus into the mix, which of course is more of a kind of sweet thing. So that's where I've found Floraflex Wet to be. Floraflex Dry is more middle of the road. I forgot to put on hydroponic research onto here. They've come out with a few things over the years, but they're more middle of the road as well. And then coming to advanced nutrients. Now, advanced nutrients is all over the place. Not to say that they have a bad product by any means, but it is very expensive to get their whole line. Unless you're going with possibly their dry commercial newts, which I don't know if everybody can get a hold of. You might have to be in commercial to be able to get a hold of those, but I'm not sure. But anyways, they're really all over the place. They can get really, really, really sweet. They can get really, really, really stinky. So that's why they've got this kind of full spectrum terpene expression from very sweet to very stinky. And again, all of this is kind of dictated by the strain, of course, but also by medium and environment. So with terpene modulation, like in an outdoor setting, for instance, if you think about the old school strains like Northern Lights, for instance, we'll take that one as a good example. If you take Northern Lights and you take it outside in the morning with number one, Northern Lights number one, in the morning it will come off more sweet and strawberry, and in the evening it will actually come off as more skunky and piney. So that's a really interesting, different expression, right, from outside. Whereas if we go inside, the terpene expression on Northern Lights number one, for us, the phenotype that we ended up getting was extremely close to the parent, being the Afghan side. And so it was very, very sweet and smelled like fresh cut strawberries. So that's more of like an inside expression that you could see from Northern Lights. Now, let's say you take that Northern Lights and you put it into organic, you might see more of those pine and skunk notes coming out. If you gave it to general hydroponics, you'd probably see both, a nice mixture. The natural, Northern Lights, heavy 16, again, same thing. Drip hydro, you're probably going to see a little bit more on the skunky piney side. Humboldt County's own, again, way more probably on that skunky piney side. Floraflex wet, a little bit more strawberry, a little sweeter, maybe a little bit of citrus on top of that. And then the dry Floraflex is going to be, that classic Northern Lights, and probably going to give you that strawberry profile inside, whereas outside it'll be strawberry in the morning and skunk in the evening, and piney in the evening. So, whereas advanced nutrients, you could see it all over the place if you take it outside. Um, but again, you're going to probably get a pretty decent profile from that Northern Lights, just because the Northern Lights is such a classic, really, really good strain. When he did the work on those, it was some amazing work, and we try to do our absolute best in working these strains going forward, so that the end user has a quality experience. That's what it's all about, right? We want to have a quality experience. Quality grows, quality time, right? So this would be the place where most people will say, well, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. I mean, I kind of like sweeter stuff, but sometimes I like that skunky, gassy stuff. Those expressions sometimes are a little bit more sought after. And by gas, I'm not talking about like, a heavy terpene profile, or it smells strongly. I'm talking about like an actual gas profile, like it smells like diesel gasoline, or it smells like, regular gasoline, unleaded. So don't mistake that. And that's the one thing that I think a lot of people have mistaken in the past about terpene profiles, is that, a lot of the younger kids these days, they want to call it gas when it's really loud, and it's got a lot of terpene expression from the grow. But really, in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of a misnomenclature. That being said, thank you for everyone that has stayed throughout the length of the video. Definitely check out our vendor QS Seeds. They've got some cool stuff going on. And then hopefully we will have another drop here soon, but I know they just got a hold of Sour Spirits and Fitzgerald. So if you guys are looking for 3-packs, 6-packs, or 10-packs of those are feminized. The Super Spirits is Northern Lights back crossed to Sour Spirits. So if you look back in the videos and we talk about Sour Spirits, that's Northern Lights crossed to Sour Poison, which is Durban to Sour Diesel, right? So we back crossed that to Northern Lights, and they've got that over there now. Super Spirits, and then they've also got Fitzgerald, which is the Slurricane crossed to the Sour Spirits, which we were very excited about that, and that's looking great. We're still working on the Michigan Secret crossed over to the Sour Spirits, but the testers so far are looking phenomenal, and they're going a bit longer than we had expected, which is why this has taken so long for this drop to happen and for us to get moving on with the F2s on it. But anyways, those will be available as soon as we get done with them. And hopefully you guys have a great weekend. Happy holiday. Stay safe. Stay lifted. Grow quality medicine. Grow quality food. It's all about the input for quality output. and all about those genetics, and 150% the grower. 50% genetics, that makes 200%. What do you need out of cannabis to make it really good and make it a medicine? 200%. You got to have 200%. It can't just be 100%. It's got to be 200. So 150% the grower, that's you. Congrats. And 50% the strain. So congrats to the strains and all the breeders out there that are doing the quality work and making sure that the end users are getting a quality strain that will grow well for them and produce a quality medicinal product. But all right, take care, everybody, and we will catch you next time. Peace.